All right, let's just jump right in because today we're tackling a really, really big idea. I mean, what if there was one single framework that could explain, well, all of it? Not just intelligence, but life itself, society, maybe even art? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But that's exactly what we're going to dig into.
So let me start by asking you something. What do you think connects, say, the latest AI model, the actual living cells inside your body, and a piece of jazz music? On the surface, they seem to have absolutely nothing in common. They feel like they're from totally different worlds. But what if they're not?
Well, the answer we're looking at today comes from this really unique blog called LFY ADA. And look, this isn't just some random collection of thoughts. You've got to think of it more like a massive intellectual project. And it's all built around one single, really powerful idea. And that core idea? It all comes down to a fundamental battle, a conflict that's happening literally everywhere in the universe. It shapes everything, from the biggest stars down to the tiniest cells. It's the constant, endless fight against this one unstoppable force called entropy. So, okay, what is entropy? The simplest way to think about it is it's the universe's default mode. It's the basic rule that everything tends to fall apart, you know? Orderly things get messy, complex structures break down. It's this powerful, natural pull towards chaos and disorder. And this is where it gets so cool. The universe is always pushing towards disorder, towards just noise. But life? Life has a totally different mission. It's all about building structure, creating form, pushing back against that noise. You could almost say life is a rebellion against the universe's default settings. And bam, here it is. This is the core idea of the whole thing. The answer to that first question about AI, cells, and jazz. Life, our minds, even AI, they aren't just things that exist. They're active processes. What defines them is their constant struggle to resist that slide into chaos. They're basically little engines that create and defend pockets of order in a disorderly universe. Okay, so let's take that big idea and apply it to something we talk about all the time: artificial intelligence. Because, most people think of AI as this giant brain, like a huge library just packed with facts. But this way of thinking, it flips that idea completely on its head. What's so relevant about the LFY ADA blog is that it doesn't just focus on training AI models. It focuses on something called inference, and that's the good stuff. That's what happens when an AI actually has to do something in the real world. It has to think on its feet with real-world limits like time and energy. So the question shifts from what does it know to how much energy does it burn to come up with an answer? And I love this analogy they use. Training an AI, that's like developmental sculpting. It's the one-time process of growing up, of building the system. But inference, that's the real-time metabolism. That's the messy, constant, energy-burning business of actually living and thinking second by second. So that brings us to the next piece of the puzzle. We've got this idea of metabolism, of navigating. If thinking is like navigating a landscape, then what exactly is that landscape? And this might be the most profound claim in the whole blog. The mind isn't a place you store things. It's not a hard drive. It's the guided movement through a structured space of possibilities. Thinking isn't about looking up a fact. It's about taking a journey to find an answer. So, what does that journey actually look like? Well, the blog calls it attractor thinking. And here's a great way to picture it. Imagine you place some marble on top of a hilly landscape. At first, it could roll in any direction, right? That's your high possibility space. Then it finds a slope, a gradient, and starts rolling downhill. Eventually, it settles in a valley, a stable spot. That valley? That's your answer. That's the thought finding its final, most stable form. All right, let's pull the camera back a bit. We've gone deep on how this whole anti-entropy thing applies to AI and thinking. But now let's see how this one idea connects, well, pretty much everything else. And this is what's so wild, how consistently this one lens works. Suddenly, AI isn't just code, it's metabolism. Life isn't just chemistry, it's the active defense of order. Consciousness might just boil down to a basic survival evaluation. Is this good for me or bad for me? You could even apply it to society. And yep, even back to jazz, which is all about creating this huge world of possibility from just a tiny bit of structure. So all of this brings us to the ultimate question, the one that really seems to be at the heart of this entire project.
In a universe that wants everything to fall apart and scatter, how does anything manage to hold together and act? How does simple, boring old structure suddenly become an agent with a will of its own? And that's really the core takeaway here. If you remember one thing, it should be this. Intelligence isn't a passive library of facts. It's not about storage. It is an active, constant, energy-burning fight. It's the fight to find and defend structure in a world that is fundamentally noisy and chaotic. It's the ultimate defense of order against disorder.